Account-based marketing, or ABM, is scary. Or at least that's what many marketers like me used to think. Thankfully, today there are many ways to ease into ABM. There are plenty of tools and experts that you can draw on to actually implement it. And in healthcare, ABM is definitely something that you should do. In a recent survey by Outcomes Rocket, they found that the average ROI for health IT and tech vendors who use ABM is a whopping 137%. That's right, 137, triple digits. After I saw that number in that survey, I just had to get Saul Marquez, CEO of Outcomes Rocket, to join me here to talk about it. Let's get to it.
Sway.Health.
Saul, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me, Colin. Great to see you.
It's always fun to have you on the program. It's always cool to have someone else who does podcasts and these types of things because it's so much fun just to have a conversation.
It is. It is. It's a lot of fun, and it's cool because we're usually at a conference together, like side by side. You guys are running your show, I'm running mine, and we're too busy to catch up that we have to have these podcasts to actually catch up.
That is that is very, very true. We're like ships passing in the night. It's very apt given your background. We're like two ships
That's right.
passing in the
That's right.
night at a conference, right? Like you said, you're doing your thing, your podcasts, which are awesome and great, and encourage everyone to. We'll put it in the links below actually to make sure that people go to your
Thank you.
podcast. And then we're doing our thing. So yeah, we never really, other than occasionally at breaks or grabbing breakfast, we barely see each other.
I know. I know.
So I'm excited because today we're going to dive into a topic that I haven't actually heard a lot about this year, which I'm surprised about, and that is, of course, ABM, account-based marketing. Um, you, Outcomes Rockets, did a survey, and you got some pretty interesting results. And I'm looking forward to diving into
Thank
that
you.
with you. But Saul, just for the benefit of the folks that are new to our audience and don't know who you are, can you just give us a little bit about you and Outcomes Rocket?
Yeah, that sounds great, Colin. Thank you for the opportunity. And thank you all for tuning in to our episode today. I'm Saul Marquez, CEO of Outcomes Rocket, and Outcomes Rocket is a full service marketing agency exclusively focused on healthcare. We love the Sway community because you guys are our people. And healthcare's tough, from the compliance to understanding the nuances of the businesses and sub businesses within healthcare. We have a lot of fun. The stats that drive us, Colin, and everybody with us are really the stats of within 5 years, 50% of businesses fail, and within 10 years, 97% of businesses fail. And the number one reason they fail is lack of product demand. And we believe at Outcomes Rocket that if innovators, leaders are striving to make healthcare better, make people's lives better, take cost out of the system, and if that's their business, we believe they deserve to succeed. And so we exist to help them fulfill their mission to make healthcare better for all of us.
A very noble goal, Saul, a very noble goal.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's talk about ABM. Let's talk about ABM because it surprises me that it wasn't talked about more, like I said, and that's because in my mind, this is the way to go in healthcare because healthcare is not like a B2C market. There's a finite number of healthcare organizations if that's who your target is. There's a finite number of payers if that's your market. There's a finite number of pharma companies, and they're all in a directory. Like you know who they are. So you don't need to do a lot of what I call mass market stuff. And yet ABM seems to only be starting to gain traction with a lot of folks. Is that what you're finding as well, Saul?
Yeah, you know what? It's fascinating. In short, yes, and here's the thing. I feel like there's elements of ABM that are happening all the time. Like just because of healthcare, the nature of it, right? Key finding number one, 71.2% of organizations currently implement ABM strategies. So to your point, right? Like it's happening. However, I think deep understanding is not fully there yet. The nuances of one to one to few, demand gen, deal acceleration, right? All of those little things that can actually, if you look at the elements granularly, can really help you get the results you're looking for. Maybe they're not fully appreciated, but they're being run. Like the playbooks are being run.
Yeah, and I think your study kind of highlighted your survey kind of really highlighted something, like, and that's really the ROI of ABM. I mean, I think in healthcare, when implemented properly, I've heard just astounding numbers in terms of ROI, like 100%, like triple digits. And in fact, your survey, one of the key findings that I highlighted was that the average estimated ROI from an ABM program in your survey was like 137%. Like that is ridiculous.
It's insane. Like that is literally why we need to be more intentional about our ABM efforts. I go back to, and before I started the agency, Colin, I was a med device guy, sales and marketing, and I remember being at a company, Nuvasive, back in the day. It's a spinal implant company, and I was in the chief operating officer's office. His name is Pat Miles, and Pat, I love Pat. He's such an innovator. He's to this day, he's still an innovator, leading C Spine today. Pat said to me something that I never forgot. He said, Saul, when you're an expert in your field, you really have to know the nuances. And the little details and the nuances are what separate average from great. He said, I'm terrible at golf. He says to me, Pat says, I'm terrible at golf. I see grass is grass, but there's the green and there's the different. I'm not a golf player either, as you can tell. But then he says, I love wine, and I can tell you regions where grapes from. It's these differentiations, these nuances. And we back then we were in the spine business, so we really at that time at Nuvasive really differentiated ourselves by understanding every single layer of muscle, of tissue, of ligament, of bone. When you get into the dural area, understanding how nerve roots exit the foramen, being able to speak the nuances to a spine surgeon brought you into their world and created trust. And so what's happening in ABM today is I think a general understanding, and the opportunity that we have as marketers is to truly understand the nuances as Pat called the differentiators, right? To help us understand it better.
So I have to ask this then, Saul, like, what does ABM look like to you when it's implemented? Like, when it's done well, what should it look like? How would you describe that at a company?
Yeah. Yeah. So when it's done well, you are essentially putting together a program that is number one, driven by strategy, hyper targeted based off of your ICPs and your personas. And you have I would tell you there's three different layers to it, right? There's three different layers to the ABM plan. You have one to one, and these are literally like your top 5% deals. These are your $1 million, depending on what your ACVs are, right? These are your $1 million deals if that's your big deal. If your deal is a $100,000 deal, that's a bigger one, then you're probably not going to be running one to one ABM because it's not the most scalable thing to do. You're probably more so one to few or demand gen ABM. And so what happens is at every level, you're able to customize the program like really to the point of like where it hurts. Landing pages, mailers, like custom designed products that you send to people with their name even, right? That's how granular you can get with it. And you're making touch points. It's omni-channel. You can't think that because you're running an ABM program you could stick to one channel. You have to be omni-channel. But what you're ultimately doing is you're being very intentional about a few accounts and likely also going laterally because there's your economic buyer, there's your technical buyer, there's your user buyer, and there's your coaches. So you really have to understand all the key players in a decision, and you're targeting a specific number of organizations, and you're doing so methodically, and you're connecting every single thing in your marketing programs from conferences to email to LinkedIn to everything that you do, phone calls, right? And so that doesn't mean you abandon all other efforts. It just means that you're focusing this program on the top deals, 80-20, because 80% of your sales will come from 20%. And what you're focused on ABM is your 20%.
Right. So to just paraphrase a little bit, you're talking about being hyper focused on a small number of prospects or customers if you're talking about expanding your presence. But for the most part, we're talking about prospects. So instead of focusing on the world of healthcare, all 8,000, hospital systems in the US, you're like, hey, these 100 or these 50 or these 20 are the ones that are my best possible deals that I want to land. And so I'm just going to put effort on these 20. And what you're saying
Exactly.
is that could be 20 that you're focusing on at once, like in the one to few mode, or it could be like
Yep.
you're going one to one, like you're building a program for one of these health systems and you're just tailoring it and personalizing it that much. Like that's ABM.
That's right. That's right. And I'll say one last thing. The mechanics are very simple, right? Like your goal is to effectively get a group of people within an organization to get down the awareness, consideration, decision funnel. And you're crafting content that's personalized, that's really helping them get to know you and your solution. Today, the world's changing, and we all know um, what used to be like traffic on websites is going down, and a big reason for that is the answer engine optimization or generative engine optimization. It's got multiple names now, but what we're seeing right now, Colin, is actually fascinating. It's actually like all of the low intent stuff that used to happen on a website, all of that low intent is actually happening on your choice of LLM, Perplexity, ChatGPT. So, interestingly enough, the question then becomes, as part of this, are we doing all the right things to be cited in these chats within them, right? Then when you get people on your website, now these people that are showing up to your website, they're actually higher intent. They're showing up with higher intent. So volume might be lower, but what we're seeing is that they're higher intent, which is fascinating.
So, so let's talk about that a little bit because you went there. Um,
Yeah,
how
it's on
has
everybody's mind.
Well, I'm just like, so other than the search side, because that's a whole topic on its own, but how has AI changed or changing ABM? Because in the old days, it used to be like you just said, you got hyper focused on the personas, the people. You talked to sales, obviously, as a marketer, and then you really manually crafted a lot of this programming and a lot of the emails, a lot of the content specific to that ABM program. And sometimes it was one-on-one, and sometimes it was one to few. How has AI changed that formula, or has it?
It has. So one of the sections of the report, which I think we'll link up in the show notes, right?
Hmm.
Okay, awesome. One of the sections of the report is actually key benefits of AI and ABM. And so out of the 771 marketers that we surveyed, number one was improved account targeting and segmentation. So, right, being able to take intent data from Bombora, for example, and meshing that up with social media information and putting it together with any interviews that this executive has done, then putting together uh, targeted, highly segmented groups that fit into a particular talk track. Then, on the other hand, you have the people that aren't on the internet at all, that you try to find stuff on them, but you can't. So that becomes another segment that you reach out to. So there's a lot of different things you could do with that and account targeting and segmentation. I'll say with regard to analytics, right? You could go through your analytics so much easier now. So you're running campaigns, and when you're done, you export that, you load it into your favorite, you know, AI engine, and now you're getting back so much rich data, and you're finding opportunities to be able to do different things with your campaigns. Maybe there's a thing that you didn't realize in a particular segment, that, wow, you know what? The AI just surfaced to you. So analytics is a big part of how AI is being leveraged in ABM as well, to name a few. And we've got about six, seven items there on the list of how it's being used.
Like in my mind, I mean, those are great, and I totally agree with you in terms of, the using AI to look at your analytics and give you some clues as to where you might dig deeper. That it's a great use of it instead of you poring over the numbers or, trying to find those nuggets. AI can sort of point you in the right direction right away. But I gotta imagine that AI must be pretty useful to help you hone in on the personas a lot better. Like we're at a point now where you could literally load a transcript of a podcast that your target person was on, or a representative of your target persona, and just go, here's like a bunch of transcripts from this person or these types of titles. Can you kind of draw out and build a persona based on this? I mean, that is far more accurate than we were able to do, right?
In a big way. And by the way, I want to give a plug to a client of ours.
Hmm.
So the name of their platform is Whalehawk. Have you heard of Whalehawk?
I have not. Okay. I have not.
Okay. All right. All right. So they're actually what you just said as a service. And so you literally log into Whalehawk and go in there and you type in a person's name and their organization, and it aggregates all this data across podcasts, different things. And it literally has a section on the right that you click on it, and it says conversation starters, pulling from board meetings, podcasts, coverages. Maybe they were on Sway, or maybe most likely Health IT Today. Right?
That's true.
They're pulling
That's right.
interviews from you or John with these people, and literally like Whalehawk does this for you.
Well, there you go. That's and that's fantastic. It's funny because ironically, the one spot that you shouldn't pull from is from their blogs, right? Because we know A, ghostwriters before, and then B, today, I mean, it could be written half by AI, right? So it's not
Right, right.
really indicative, but you can't AI yet, or you wouldn't bother AIing yet an interview or a spur of the moment, man on the street interview that was done at Hims or something. Like those are real. That's really that person. So
True.
because again, bringing it back, it's all about that targeting. The more you know that your target audience, the more your persona is honed, the better your ABM campaign is, and that's how you can get to, I'm assuming, that those triple digit ROI numbers.
Totally, totally. And to that point in the survey, we saw that 17.3% of B2B marketers have fully mapped their customer journeys. Only 17%. Dude, isn't that crazy?
That is, well, either that means your process is really fluid, or it just means you haven't sat down and thought about it.
Yeah, and so like that points to something really interesting. So, one of the things that we there's a report by McKinsey that states, and it was a 2023 report, or no, actually 2024. And I'll share it with you so we could put it in the show notes if people are curious. McKinsey report, and then the New York Times covered it. And it said that 28% of healthcare marketers have a documented content strategy. So this points to a problem, right? This points to a problem. And the quote that we share a lot internally at Outcomes Rocket with our team, but also with our clients is from Sun Tzu, The Art of War. And Sun Tzu says, tactics are the noise you hear before the war is lost. And
Interesting.
so, yeah, man. And so, like, we're very passionate about this. And this 17% is actually a lot lower than the 28%. But the point is this, is that if you start doing ABM and you have not done the strategy of mapping your customer journey, getting your personas, I know that you're busy, And guess what? The cool thing is that if you're busy, you don't have to do it alone. That's why agencies like ours exist, so that we could pop in and say, "What are you working on? Oh, your hair's on fire. No worries. Let our team take on the burden of putting together the documentation of your personas, your strategy. We'll make sure that it's hyper targeted because you don't. I look at this as an opportunity to differentiate yourself in the market. If only 17% of B2B marketers have fully mapped customer journeys, that means you could be ahead of 82.7% of the market if you do that.
Well, again, it's a nice segue because my next question for you, Saul, was going to be, where do you start with where's the right place to start if you're not yet doing a coordinated ABM? Because I want to go back to something you said before. I think people are doing some forms of ABM. They may not know it, they may not call it ABM, but they're probably doing some form of it, but it's probably not very coordinated. So if I'm a marketer listening to this, watching us, where would you recommend they start? What's the first important step?
Yeah, well, the first, so let me just say one thing and then I'll answer the first important step. I feel like most people in marketing get intimidated when somebody says ABM
True?
because what they think about and you'll see reflected here. So what people think ABM, they're like, oh, like too expensive because they think you need to use demand based or Sixth Sense, or one of these, role works or demand science, right? Like you think you don't have to use them. In fact, most of people running ABM programs are not leveraging these platforms. Cost is the number one issue. Why not? Right. So, number one, I'll say to you, don't be intimidated. Like ABM is accessible with your existing tech stack. It's possible that you might have to, work in a couple things, but you could get there with what you have today. Maybe add in one or two things. You don't need to sign a $75,000 a year agreement with one of these platforms, right? So that's one. Where do you start? To answer your question, you start by honestly, I'm going to just say this. If you have not documented your personas, your messaging, your brand house, please do that because it doesn't matter if you do anything. If you have not done that, your campaigns will miss the mark. So I'm saying that at risk of people thinking, dude, no kidding. But I just want to make sure I emphasize that tactics are the noise you hear before the war is lost. And so if you get your strategy straight, please make sure your brand house, your personas, your ICPs, if you do anything on those persona exercises, make sure you get those pain points. There's so much more, but those pain points are the key. Then you could get into the ABM stuff. And so what I'll say to you is that um, success repeats itself. So I would tell you, look at your organization, look at your best accounts, and see the anatomy of those accounts. Why do they buy from you? Who's there? Who made the decision? And then form a campaign based off of those personas so that you could duplicate successful actions and create a short list of 25 accounts and do some focus efforts on those accounts. Make sure you have back to kind of like Miller Hyman selling. Make sure you have all of the right people. You have your economic buyer, you have your user buyer, your technical buyer, and you have your coaches. And make sure you're having outreach that touches the buying group and get after those 25. And I promise you, if you just do that campaign in addition to everything else that you're doing, you'll likely get 10x more results from that one campaign than everything else that you're running today.
Okay, okay. I like it. It's a very clear playbook to follow to get started. But let me add a wrinkle to my question.
Yeah.
If you're a relatively small marketing group, or maybe even a solo marketing person at a company, what would you say to that person to help convince their executive team that this investment in persona and understanding the process is going to be worth it. Because, if marketers are having this barrier of thinking ABM is this giant wall they have to climb, executives, they probably think this is Mount Everest, right? Like so how would a marketer convince the executive team, hey, this is going to be worth it?
Yeah, the great question. And the bottom line comes to ROI. So grab our report or any other report for that matter. Like, there's other ABM reports. And the one thing that you'll see consistently is that the rate of return, the ROI on these programs is better than most other programs that you could do. Ours in particular, out of 771 marketers, outline 137% ROI. And that's just like that's crazy, right? Like that's just how powerful this is. That will move your team to be open to potentially considering a pilot. If you do a pilot, please don't make it a short one. Do a 6 month pilot on this. It takes time. It takes time to get results. You guys know this. Especially in healthcare, sales cycles 6 months to 1, 2 years, right? Depending on the size of the deals that you do, and the buying cycles. But I would say ROI speaks for itself.
I like it. I mean, and I like the fact that you're saying, "Hey, listen, let's look at some evidence from other companies." Um, but I think, listening to these kinds of podcasts can also help to say, "Listen, those ROIs do not come with this giant spend as well, right?
True.
It comes with a giant effort, perhaps, but not giant necessarily a giant spend, which I think is what scares most executives is the spend more than it is the effort."
That's a good call out, man. I agree. That's a well said. Well said.
Well, thanks for that. But
Well, hey,
uh,
you were a chief marketing officer for how many years, Colin? I just
many
learned this at Health.
There you go. There you go.
How
Yes,
many
that's
years?
I was a chief marketing officer for 15 years before I went.
Amazing.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, so I've been in that seat to try and convince people of
Yeah,
it. It's ironically, you don't have a lot of problems convincing enterprise salespeople, right? So of course, enterprise salespeople get this because that's their whole life, right? They're
right.
only dealing with a set number of clients, the highest value, the Fortune 500, or if you're coming from a non-healthcare background, that's what you have the F500 sales team, and they get it because they're not looking at the people coming to the website. They're only concerned about this one person coming to the website, not the masses.
Exactly.
But in healthcare, that hasn't been as much of the case. Anyway, so ironically, this is the one time where you can find a really good ally for ABM when you go to the top salespeople, because they're probably doing this,
True.
but they don't call it ABM. They just call it account sales. So, um,
Totally.
so that's one. Um, but just back to that survey, because it is full of rich material. Like you said, we're going to put the link in the show notes and in the article that we write for this. Saul, was there a statistic, a finding that really shocked you or surprised you, either in a good way or a bad way?
I mean, I will be honest with you. It's the one that I shared. Like the one about mapped customer journeys. Like I was familiar with the 28% of documentation in healthcare marketing strategies, right? Like, and that floored me the first time I heard it. And I was like, wow, if we are not looking at this as an opportunity to gain a competitive advantage, we're missing it, right? So in this particular thing, 17.3% of B2B marketers have a fully mapped customer journey. Like, dude, that's like money on the table. All you need to do is roll up your sleeves, map your customer journey, and then guess what? Everything starts working out a lot better. You just have to do the documentation. It's not fun. But once you get into it, it actually gets fun. And then you start nerding out. And when you start nerding out on this stuff, you start seeing things. And by the way, you could use AI now to help you do this. And you don't have to do it alone. You could reach out to companies like ours to help you get there. But the bottom line is, I can't, like, the numbers don't lie. And if I sit here talking to you about tactics on account-based marketing that work, they're not going to work if you don't have a fully mapped customer journey.
All right. So Saul, in the survey, you mentioned something called ABM 2.0. What does that mean?
Yeah, yeah. And ultimately, very simply put, we're using companies are using AI and automation to help them accelerate results and decrease burden of the work of ABM so that they could get higher returns. And I point to 86% of the companies expect AI to increase the return on investment from their account-based marketing over the next year. So if you're if you're currently getting 137% return, 86% of us, and I'll lump myself into that, we're expecting that we're going to get even more ROI because we're becoming more efficient, because we're becoming more accurate and precise in our ability to target. So ultimately, ABM 2.0 is leveraging AI to get there faster and to get there more intelligently.
I love it. I love it. So we've covered a ton of ground here today. Where
We
can
have.
people go to learn more about Outcomes Rocket?
Check out outcomesrocket.com. There you'll find the report that we talked about and different services that we offer. If you're curious about learning more, we always welcome a discussion.
Well, Saul, thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for taking time out of your busy day to come and chat with me. It's been great having you on the program.
It's my pleasure, Colin. Thanks, everyone.
Hey, I really appreciate the advice that Saul shared about how to get executives on board with the groundwork that's needed for ABM. Mapping buyer journeys and refining buyer personas looks like busy work to people outside of the marketing department. Yet, as you heard Saul say, this is the necessary foundation for any successful ABM initiative. Showing your executives case studies of others who have implemented ABM and being transparent on why the work is needed will help you avoid those sideways glances that erode your leadership credibility. And hey, if you made it this far in the video, we'd really appreciate it if you could mash that like button and click subscribe. Also, head over to Swaay.Health, that's Sway with 2 A's, .health, where you can find more great content like this. I'm Colin Hung. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.